Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GlobalLogic Cafe, LinkedIn Live Conversations. Our conversations via the LinkedIn Live Cafe are all around technology, careers, leadership, and diversity. Our host for today's chat is Dharmendra Sethi, Senior Vice President and Head of Talent Acquisition at GlobalLogic. Let's welcome Dharmendra with a huge round of applause.
Hello. Hi. Welcome, Thomas. So, first of all, good afternoon to you. Good morning and good evening to all my friends and listeners on the call. So, I'm looking forward to a very exciting conversation, very insightful conversation with Thomas today. So, I'll start with a quick introduction about GlobalLogic and myself. And then, Thomas, I would like you to give a quick introduction about yourself as well. So, just for again a quick understanding, GlobalLogic is a product engineering services company that combines design, engineering, data science to build our clients' digital future. So, basically, what we do is we believe in doing art of possible through design expertise. Then we talk about complex engineer, basically, which brings in the feasibility, and then we use the data and content engineering for the viability of any engagement, and this is primarily done through our design studios, our engineering centers, and our operations across the world. So we have roughly 28,000 very talented employees in the company. We are based in 15 countries, and it's adding every month. I would say we've added just a couple of countries in the last couple of months. We have 35 engineering centers, 8 design studios, and again, we're growing. Again, as I said, 28,000 people, and in my function, I hire about 1,000 people a month. So we are growing at about 25% year on year. And about myself, I am global head for talent acquisition and talent transformation at GlobalLogic. So it is our job to make sure that not only are we bringing talent, but we are also transforming. We believe in hiring for purpose as well as building and developing for purpose. So that is where we use a lot of technology, and this session is going to be talking a lot about that. And I'm really looking forward to learning a lot from Thomas in what he has done with us and for the industry in as a whole in technology. So Thomas, once again, welcome. Would love to hear introduction about yourself, and then we can start with the questions.
Thanks, Dharmendra. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Thomas Fontaine. I'm CTO at iziwork. It's a French company that actually organizes, improves, and enhances the hiring of temp workers in Europe, mostly in France and Italy at this point. I have a long history in America. I actually spent almost 25 years in the Silicon Valley, and I'm American national also. Worked with GlobalLogic on a project of digital transformation for Pearson, the giant education. Worked also at Zynga, and the reason I mentioned that is because I actually work with a lot of Indian teams at Zynga around Farmville or Zynga Poker, where I was actually the CTO. And came back to France recently. So iziwork, to work with iziwork. iziwork is literally developing an ecosystem that de-risks and that enhances the hiring of blue-collar workers, mostly at this point, for large, medium, and smaller companies across Europe, using all kinds of technologies, including AI, data science, mobile apps, and all the administrative/website technologies for back office and front office that one can imagine at this point. Very excited to be on this here today with you guys, and I can look forward to talk with Dharmendra.
Great. So as we discussed, this is again a topic basically redefining hiring using technology. Let me start with the first question. So how do you see and believe the extent of impact of technology in today's hiring process?
Well, today's hiring process has been completely enhanced, optimized, and modified by technology, and technology does that in every domain. But really, it's first and foremost the ability to manage a lot more operations at a cheaper cost and automatically, whether it's the sourcing of candidates, the pre-screening of candidates, the selection of candidates, and also the de-risking of large hiring missions at scale. So we can imagine chatbot technologies for the pre-screening. We can talk about ATS software that allow you to react and proactively with candidates and manage a large candidate user base, exactly like a CRM customer tool would do with clients to a certain extent, while also managing the sources. Basically job sites, and with all technologies and search engine that allow to a certain extent to specialize the search off the bat. And of course, these have an impact also on cost of cost of managing the hiring. It allows the HR department to do much more at a cheaper cost. I would say also that hiring is these days a lot more geared towards managing inclusion and diversity within a company, right? So this has the benefit of actually increasing employee engagement, but also creativity and productivity to a certain extent. This can be done through a screening and interviewing process that are less subject to unconscious biases. And so, for example, testing tools that assess skills. So for tech developers, it's really testing the coding skills at the very least, but it could be the cultural fit, the knowledge in general, real life situations. We can think of technologies like HackerRank, Test Gorilla, Codility, eSkill, and so on, which all introduce their own formats for defining what a skill is, what a cultural skill is, a heat map in certain cases of those notions to really quantify the candidates in a less biased, in a more precise fashion, right? Along with employee referral portals like Avicio and so on. And of course, we can think of the classic technologies like video conferencing, advanced multimedia documents that basically can put the candidates give the candidate better understanding of the environment and put them in a situation where they actually meet the teams and get to exchange more than just interviews. We can also think of big data and the ability to derive, which companies like Google did, many others in the Silicon Valley, a better understanding of the psychology of investing through the analysis of tens of thousands of cases. So of course, this is much more available to companies that have scale and experience and the means to do so, also with the knowledge. But it enables the tuning of interview techniques, right? The classic interview cycle, at least if it's well done, is really about defining a certain range of interviews that are very well specified by, target or topic or domain, and make sure that all the talent will have, access to a fair interview process. But, with these techniques, you actually can define this interview cycle, all the type of interviews and the type of, events within the interview in a much more efficient manner. And also measure to a certain extent the progression of the talents, and then retro-engineer, all of this experience into a better interview cycle. I can talk also about gamification. So gamification, as I said, I work for Zynga, so I'm a gamer myself, and I believe a lot in gamification. Not, this term has been badly used so many times. It's not about introducing poor games. It's really about understanding the notion of the core loop, which is common to all games, which is the reason why it's so important is because games are some of the most engaging interactions with, technological interactions with people, right? They really, why do gamers come back? Is because they basically invest their time in something that satisfies them in a way or in another, right? And so that allows to create a specific engagement cycle with the candidate. I think companies too often hire or at the last minute. They literally come with their budgets and then decide to hire, and then it's the rush, it's the panic, right, towards finding the right talent pool and so on, right? Good companies, I think, the ones that understand the hiring cycle, hire preemptively. They create a talent base that they can work on, right? Gain deep insights on these talents. So AI allows you to do so, along with enhanced learning technology, research and psychology research and so on, and all the software pertaining to that. But gamification allows you to engage the candidate in a deeper way, right? And so iziwork, for example, does or intends to do that a lot in its app with workers. I would say the use of more interactive technologies. So, of course, the generalization of these technologies in the world is always, like for every technology, very important. So these technologies gain in this domain, more attraction and relevance. But we can mention VR to a certain extent, the experiments of Lloyd's, for example, on this, to actually put the candidate into real life situations to a certain extent, so the candidate can discover the environment with more truth, right? At least apparently, and so get more engaged, more interested, or not actually, and understand the environment that candidate may actually be exposed to if she or he gets hired, right? But we can also think about apps. Apps are wonderful ways to engage candidates. I think companies have done a lot of efforts on their sites in general to make them more interactive for clients and for candidates. But applications is definitely an investment. All of these are investments that are consequential. So again, it's a matter of scale. But they definitely can help creating this preemptive, high engagement hiring cycle, right? Which I think company will benefit with, especially in a very competitive hiring cycle, right, across the world. I want to mention what iziwork does. It uses many of those technologies along with also pre-qualification and pre-screening technologies. So this is another thing where AI can help. Blockchain also, again, the relevance of blockchain in this domain needs to increase, but really to automate and decrease the cost, optimize those phases that are sometimes costly to the company and the hirers, in order to focus on the virtuous loop, right? Literally the gamification of the hiring process. Like technologies like text kernel and Obol, some of their layers actually allow pre-qualification and onboarding through pre-scanning of documents in multi-language, or blockchain that can allow immutable, secure, personalized check of your references and work history. So at every stage of the way, technology intervene, and so companies like iziwork, but there is others. I think we can think of Upwork and others, but iziwork is literally a business ecosystem in addition to a technology, where we've placed the concept of partners within the hiring cycle, so literally entrepreneurs, to actually gain traction and de-risk the scale, right? The scale that the large companies need to, and the to a certain extent, to de-risk also the urgency. It's especially true in temp work, while adding mobile apps to engage the worker and start creating a virtual cycle, a gamification of the process by adding, by making them feel that they will get their worth by engaging in the application, like literally through reward programs, through training. And training is part of the hiring cycle again, which training and evolution of career, which again can be understood and organized through deep insights through AI, data science, and psychology, right? But along the way, we also basically onboard workers within companies and manage their work. And so this whole thing creates another virtual cycle, actually, with higher engagement of clients and workers that allows us to get more insights, and then with these insights to improve the service.
Yeah, I think this is a lot of good information, Thomas. So again, I would try to share with you that as a talent head of again, I would say a mid-sized company for the US, but a large company from Indian context. So I am trying to use technology to make sure that we are bringing the thought process of engineering, because we're an engineering company. But I also believe, hiring is a combination of mechanics and humanics, basically, because our asset is people. So in that sense, I need to make sure while I'm using technology to again make it easier for the system, bring in transparency for both the candidates as well as the employees and my recruiters. But at the same time, I want to balance that. It's all about relationship. So it's a kind of a combination of out of science and out of humanics, or out of relationship, as you call it. So we also use, again, just to give you a perspective, in the organization, we have forecasting engine of what we are looking 3 months, 6 months, 9 months from there. We believe truly that, as you mentioned, not only we want to use these tools to be able to kind of I don't want to use the concept of gating, but concept of how we are creating a very transparent way of working in the market, that we are able to give transparency to the people who are looking to join GlobalLogic as a company. Because it is sometimes what happens is, the candidate just kind of loses sight of what is happening inside the organization. So we are using technology to make sure that we do that as well. We have very, again, keen focus on building and doing engagement platform before hiring, while the offer has been made, onboardings, as you mentioned. So we are also using technology truly to make sure that we are building it up from the perspective of a human perspective, of a candidate perspective, so that we don't make overuse technology while we want to make advantage of that. So we also use sourcing tools, we use matching tools, we use again assessment tools that we have, and in the process we're also building some of our own tools. So this question takes us to the next question. So which are the areas tech can help? I know we talked about some part of this thing here, and then the question comes again, basically between build versus buy. So again, while tech is helping, and I know, again, being a CTO, you would probably believe in a lot of, again, concept of building, because that is how it works. But again, this is a classic question that all companies have to answer: how much to build and how much to buy. So what is your thought about how should we look at that part?
Well, build versus buy, as you know, is always a very dicey question for engineers, because engineers always want to build. But I have enough experience to actually, to a certain extent, consider this with more, probably a little bit more wisdom, right? So first, I want to mention that what you said is exactly true. I mean, hiring is a first and foremost a human relationship process, and technology won't replace this anytime soon. It will enhance it, right? In terms of, and so interactive technologies do that very well. I mean, we've seen over the period of COVID that actually working with video conferencing and everything has almost replaces being at the same place at the same time. At least that's my experience. When it comes to build versus buy, it's always a matter of what specifics the building process brings you, right? If you can get to a certain extent off the bat added services and functions by buying them at a competitive price, very often you're not going to be able to do better, because especially if it's not your specialty. So you have to understand what gives you an edge, what gives you a competitive advantage, hopefully durable, and invest in it, and try to reuse whatever is not directly related to that, to actually get to this virtual cycle and ecosystem that creates that's a competitive advantage, right? So in terms of hiring, I would say that all the services we already talked about, you want to be able to use them, right? So whether it's on the AI side, I would think about something like TextKernel. They have, I think, multiple decades of investment in understanding skills and jobs. So they define an ontology that is relatively simple to use with APIs. That is something that I would try to reuse as much as I can if I was trying to create a knowledge graph that allows me to improve management of my talent and the talent pool and the hiring pool, right? When it comes to available hiring technologies, then I would use them to actually gain more insights and at very least de-risk at scale my hiring process. When it comes to the management of candidates, the ATS tool do a very good job, right? However, if I mention for the case of iziwork, what would give me a competitive advantage would be at the end of the day, this gamification process that I talked about, this engagement in interactive experiences, right? But also proposing enhanced value services type formation to candidates to actually evolve their careers or make their careers more permanent, or actually dare to actually propose their candidacy into things where they're supposedly not directly skilled for. I mean, in technology, this is true. I mean, so many times, in my time as a developer, I used to be able to move from one tech to the next, but it's not always that easy to do depending on the situation in which you find yourself, where sometimes the hirer actually is very focused on a specific talent pool. So it's a skill set, languages, technology, and so on. When in reality you are very able to learn. So at iziwork, we are actually focused on developing, an ontology that allows us to propose to the worker an evolution. I mean, a career path through formation and training, right? And I want to give an example of a analogy that is actually quite surprising but very interesting. We found out that hairdressers are very good at becoming welders, basically, because they can use both hands and talk at the same time. Those are the kind of insights that I don't think you'll find anywhere else at this point, but that we can develop with a specific approach to the data.
So I think again, Thomas, very, very interesting points here again. So again, just give you a perspective at GlobalLogic, because again, I mentioned we are a product engineering company. So we have gone out and looked at tools that should work for us, including an ATS or an AI engine or matching engines. So what I'll tell you, what we have faced is that again, a lot of tools work some part of it, and given our kind of uh, base and understanding of product engineering, we always want to get the best. Like example I'll give you is internal mobility. Again, nobody, again, in my opinion, again, while I was recently attending a LinkedIn event in Los Angeles, and they're doing a lot of talk about how companies are trying to offer solutions for internal mobility, but I haven't found anyone, and I don't want to name companies here, but that they give you a good solution for how do you match somebody's career with what they want, what their aspiration is, what the company wants, and how do we move people in the company, between locations across this thing, because we're a company which is in 15 countries and 35 centers. So that is where we went into building some of our own tools for internal rotation, for even, again, as you mentioned, again, we want to understand how a career architecture is aligned to the skill graph, or again, basically we talk about the skill strategy in the organization, and we are very closely working on that piece as well. And again, I'll take this to the next conversation about this thing in the company. At our end, when we talk about 6 elements of skill strategy. We talk about how do we scope and purpose of the skills that we have, how do we link it with the culture that organization has, how do we build the architecture, where we call it architecture, or whether it's a fixed architecture or a dynamic one, it's basically ontology. Then how do we bring in data into that, so that we are talking about how many people of what kind, what we need, what we need to do. And then there are obviously people who need to have composite skills to be able to do their job. And then obviously it has to be on a technical platform. And as we say, while we believe in art of science and out of this thing, in God we trust, but everyone else has to bring data. So we run everything by data. Coming to that point, again, I know this is a question probably could take forever to discuss, but I want to hear from you. How do you see the skill architecture or the ontology one should define? Because I believe even now, with even a lot of AI engines have come in, and they are trying to talk about near skills and contiguous skills, but it's still not solved completely. But I want to hear, being a technologist, what do you think, and how should we go about addressing the skill challenge that we have as an organization, or as an industry, for the matter?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. Of course, a lot of those ontology exercises they started from the initial ones, which are really the ONET, ISCO, and other norms developed in US, in Europe, and in the world. And literally, which represent a hierarchy of job occupations. And at the leaf of these graphs, you basically find the skills, and the skills can be knowledge, they can be core competencies, specific tech skills, usage of tools, and so on. Of course, these are direct. You will find on TextKernel, for example, graphs that are literally very simple and direct. There's a benefit of being simple and working to a certain extent. But I think you can't get truly deep insights through that, especially on the evolution of a candidate or a pool of talent, right? Why? Because there are different types of skills in terms of their interrelations, right? Which basically some are really job specific and flat, and others are actually transmissible to other jobs or to other skills, right? And so it's more than just AI. I think it's the work of a data science team to actually connect these notions in between them, among themselves. But it exceeds, I think, the notion of skills and the notion of jobs. It also has related to culture, related to occupations, related to knowledge, and literally of objectives, companies themselves, literally. So when I say culture, it's really companies, and so on. And so, I think creating a flat hierarchy, which is literally purely hierarchical, won't work in this case. The ability to be able to label some of these graphs and basically retrain the ability to derive interconnections will allow you to get some deep insights. Now, and that's what I was trying to say in my previous answer, is that the ecosystem, the business ecosystem, and the retrieval of information from a highly engaged, candidate pool will provide you with unique insights that you can add to those ontologies and graph, right? Besides your own research and your a priori understanding of the problem, right? So it's a continuous learning process, right? The algorithms in AI, I think, are pretty much well known, and those are not the secret, whether it's LDA or it's neural networks or other regression techniques. It's more about how you understand feature engineering here and basically the finesses of the ontology. I mean, literally the nature of the leaves and the elements of the graph that actually matters much more, right? If I make sense.
Yeah, no, I think this is interesting. Again, I would just say one thing. I'm very excited as a talent head of a product engineering company that this AI technology is becoming more and more matured, where it is giving, again, as I said, it's all about transparency in the process. It's all about trust that, a candidate can trust us, that we are able to help them in basically train or skill them for purpose rather than having to have a Boolean match of something that we are looking for. Because as you said, again, engineering is getting more and more complex and the skill requirement is getting more and more complex. We're just using technology to bring in people who may not have all the matching skills to the core, but can be trained, can be upskilled, can be cross-skilled so that they can do the job. And sometimes it's, again, I know we had this discussion earlier as well, Thomas. It's basically, are we talking about competency, or again, basically a resume which has to say this thing. So it's come down to this AI technologies and all these technologies helping us to bring out competency of people based on their, again, not just again, skills mentioned in the resume, but kind of work they have done, kind of products they've worked on, kind of domain understanding they have. And that is very helpful for getting more and more opportunity to people who otherwise get blocked. Because sometime, again, I'll be saying I'm very proud of my recruitment team because they are all very technically kind of adept, but a lot of time recruiters just do a Boolean search or kind of look at a basic level of match, and that just becomes very difficult for candidates to go through the whole thing.
Well, it's a very good answer, and you know very well as me that actually the best hiring is about deep insights. So in the past, it was deep insights you developed as a human, right? When you have the experience of interviewing candidates, right? So it goes way beyond just the linear analysis of your skill set, right? The resume is just an introduction, right? So of course we all have different objectives and understand the experience of a candidate differently. But as you develop deep insight and intuition, and it's good to triangularize these intuitions with the rest of your team and train them in interviewing smartly. But this notion of deep insight is essential, right? Today, I mean, if you look at the construction of those ontologies, really, especially in technology, it is hard because it's a moving field. So if you take ONET, if you take ISO and so on, they basically are behind. They are 10 years behind because the evolution of the careers is so fast, right? So what do most of the companies? They just semantically analyze, whatever content they can gather on the internet through resumes and job sites and job posting and so on, and basically build an ontology over that. And unfortunately, I think it is not enough. Like, you don't get the deep insights of the second level order or third level order, relationship between those concepts to actually understand a candidate better. And that is also true for your talent, how to convert your talent to new jobs. I mean, I think one of the main trends today in hiring will be how you actually hire from the inside, right, of your company.
Yeah. So I think there are some questions coming in. I will take a first dig in some of them, and then I'll ask you to add on, please. So again, some of them are related. Basically, what are the various areas in recruitment which tech plays a crucial role? Do AI engines also take into account social media profiles of candidates when screening? So I'll take a first dig as a user of technology. So, so how do we see it? Basically, what is our process? We have a business to run. We are a people dependent. Our assets are people, talent. So we need very top end talent to do our job for our clients. So basically, what we need to do is we need to somehow kind of run campaigns on social media during through our website, through our through LinkedIn, through other platforms, so that we can bring more and more people into, as we call it, the funnel. We just bring in people, attract them to be able to see what GlobalLogic offers as an opportunity, as a career. Then using technology again, as in there's a question, whether we talk about, again, we first of all, we are able to enrich. Again, the question comes in, we can enrich a candidate's profile based on what work they have done in based on different platforms they are working on. So that way we are not just going on the resume that has come to us. We can enrich that platform. We can use technology to be able to stack rank based on contiguous skills. It's not a Boolean search, it's contiguous skills, how closely they fit the requirement. Now, this is the interesting part. Not only do we match it to our opening right now, but since we are working on multiple opportunities, we are able to offer. Again, this is the interesting part of the AI. I can say, while you applied for this particular job, but we just for your reference, we have even more matching jobs for you. So we are able to create that platform using technology to do that. And then obviously we are using, as we mentioned about, hackerrun kind of, for this thing, we are doing, hackathons. We are doing all these things. This is all using technology, where we are bringing in again, I'm going to harp on this part. Is basically building trust through transparency is what my main aim is with my outside world, because that is the only way they will understand what we actually do. We are not hesitant to show what we do, and we want to make sure that they get a good understanding of why we are one of the most preferred employers in the market. But this is where I would say, again, as a user, I'm using technology, but I would lean on you. Again, what is your thought on this particular topic? Because this is a very, I think everyone is asking very similar question on this topic.
Well, you gave such a good answer, but I mean, again, technology can add precision to the hiring process by, again, giving deep insights on the candidates, and by automating to a certain extent the testing of certain skills, or certain aspects of the candidate in terms of cultural fit, in terms of knowledge, etc., right, and adequacy for the job. And Dharmendra just mentioned a few of these. You have also testing site like like Triple Byte, I think, that actually has literally preemptively testing coders on their coding skills with their own ontology around skills, actually, to demultiply the opportunities available to a candidate, and also the opportunities available to hirer with a high level of precision, right? The second thing is literally automating some of the less interesting phase of the recruiting, the pre-screening, the management of putting in, to focus on an interactive experience for the candidate, on literally the management of a life cycle, right? I would say these are more in their infancy, but they are being introduced. So what are those things?
I think again, just again, while you're thinking, so I'll this one next question come, very interesting question has come. Again, I'm going to start, and then you can really help me answer that question. So somebody's asking, how can we use technology to source people who can think versus people who can code? So again, first I'll say, first of all, I need both of them. Again, I need people who can think, and I need people who can code, because ultimately, again, an application or a product is developed once the coding is done. But yes, you need to have the design thinking or the architecture thinking. So leading back to you, so Thomas, how how would you
Yeah.
use technology to source people who can think and people who can code?
Well, again, so these automated tests can help, but of course, testing is not necessarily the right environment to actually understand a developer, right? Because real life scenarios is not about being tested, right? Especially not on a whiteboard or in front of a screen, right? But this is where I can believe a lot in gamification. Like, look at Roblox, right? This company introduced a game, literally, that puts you in real life coding situations to some extent, where you're going to exercise problem solving, right? So, and they have developed, they actually bought a company in Broa or something, I don't remember their name, recently that was specialized in this before they organized that technology. But in Bellis, okay. It really, and for those who have studied a little bit enhanced learning techniques and gamification of that type with interactive multimedia technologies literally stimulates your brain and puts you in a condition where your brain is going to reveal itself, right? Especially if you put that person in a situation where they have to do problem solving. And those tests are actually very reminiscent of a coding exercise, right? So I think this is actually a very good way to look at it, right?
And I,
Um,
and
yeah,
I and I agree. Again, basically, again, I'm just going to add to that, what you're saying. So absolutely, again, you need to be able to figure out who can think, who can design, who can develop, and we need to know all these things. And that is aptitude. And again, we don't hire for skills. As I mentioned, I don't hire for skills. I
right.
hire for aptitude, and I hire for attitude. Because in my opinion, if you have the aptitude, if you have the attitude, you can learn anything. And that is where my learning hat comes in, that I will be able to kind of make sure that I'm going to be able to give platform for you to learn anything if you have the aptitude and the attitude. And that's why you always hire for those two things. And there are enough tools, as you just mentioned, many of them, they are helping us to be able to figure out, a person's aptitude and attitude. Obviously, are other tools as well. And then we have the human interface of my recruitment team and my HR function to make sure that we are kind of making it culture fit, making it, are they team players, can they be leaders, can be the managers, because we need all of them to run an organization like Global Logic, and obviously easy work as well.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's always an exercise of adaptation, right? So, this is how I manage my career, like literally not being obligatorily deeply specialized because not my personality in a specific technology, but actually learning along the way. And a pure test is not going to reveal this. So those kind of situations are going to do a much better job at assessing your attitude. Attitude is so important in anything you do at work and in life in general. Absolutely. Um, I just want to make sure we touch one of those questions that we haven't answered that we have passed. Do AI engine also take into account social media profiles? I think chatbot technologies actually allow you to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, while again, this is very important, because I know again there's a question coming, we'll come to that point as well. Like AI engines, are very, again, under a lot of controversy in the United States. You probably have heard there's already that they have to be kind of, clearing some kind of audit before they can be used for hiring, because they believe they are, while they were supposed to remove the bias into hiring, they are bringing in the bias, because obviously it is being done by developers. So whatever they think, and bias comes in, as they say, if you go and do a Google search for a nurse, you will see a woman's kind of image come in. If you look for a CEO, probably a man's will come, which is very unfair to the whole process, because there are very, very sharp people in nurses who are male, and CEOs who are women. So but the catch is that I want to just highlight, while I do understand there's a right thing for the states and the government to do this thing, that they want to make sure the bias doesn't set in because of AI engines. But I, again, and please add after that, believe that AI engines can actually help us remove the bias, because it's a question of how do we, as a company, as an organization, we use it and build it to do the reverse. That is, we are kind of shielding from the biases this thing, and we are completely, again, not a question because it's a forum. We are genuinely believe that we need to bring in more diversity. I'm, again, if you ask me, am I happy again at the level I am? Not at all. But we have done a lot of work, and we are constantly endeavor, both us as GlobalLogic and us being part of Hitachi company, very focused on diversity, and it's not only gender diversity. It is age diversity, it is cultural diversity, it is nationality diversity. We want to just make sure that we bring in all of them, because I, as a leader of talent function, and truly can vouch for it, because my team is one of the most diverse teams probably the whole company has. So I have seen the value of this thing. But anyway, coming back to technology, so yeah, you were talking about AI engine, and also people are asking, if you want to, talk about what are the top three uh, hiring tech trends in 2023. What would you kind of what do you say?
So I don't pretend to understand this space. It is so vast. So I'm going to say just definitely diversity and inclusion and the removal of biases, right? And as you said, AI can help here because biases are patterns, literally. So you can train machines to recognize those patterns, right? And so I would say also um, again, like creation of interactive, more engaging hiring experiences, like preemptive or or proactive, but preemptive in this case is probably better. To actually create a talent pool that you can manage intelligently over time with depth, and so help de-risk the hiring process in many situations, and actually cut also on a lot of cost and misadventures. And I would say also um, the development of internal recruiting, like using your talent base that you already have to actually fulfill to new activities, new occupations, new objectives, new targets, right? And again, deep insights on the desires, the aspirations of those internal candidates, along with how, what will lead them to have the right skills and basically knowledge and experiences will make the difference. I think
Yeah.
all of these
So
database.
yeah, I think we are coming to the end of this thing. I'll just try to answer a couple of questions which are very very specific to hiring. So I think just to give a perspective, first of all, I want to reiterate. We are in hiring. It's about people. We are in a people business. There are candidates, there are employees, there are talent in the market. So we don't want to label as a Java developer. We want to obviously respect the human part of it, right? So that's why some part of it we want to make sure that we are teaching our HR and recruiters to be that is required to get this done. But again, to answer question, yes, there is technology available, psychometric tests to kind of get an idea of a personality and aptitude of a person. There are a lot of tests built, and we use some of them. We look at cultural fitment and the mindset fitment from this thing. But in the end, I'm going to say yes, we do want to use technology, but I believe it is art of relationship in the end, hiring, and we want to make sure that we keep it that way. We'll keep using technology to become more and more transparent and trustful, but we just want to keep the human angle very much intact, because it's ultimately, again and again. And one last part which I think somebody's asked: how does a candidate get assurance that they are getting through the process and getting hired? I would say just believe and trust in your skills, build that up. Technology will help bring it up, and bring it in the forum, and then good companies, and I'm going to count one of them as GlobalLogic, would find you. Just make sure you are good at your skills, and you keep improving, keep learning, and we'll find you. That's how I would like to end. Again, I don't know if we how much time more we have, but this is my this thing. And again, Thomas, anything what you want to say in the end? um,
No, I want to reiterate the human side of the equation, the notion of attitude, and actually you develop your next hire through your current job, right? And the people that you meet and the job that you do, the passion that you show. Of course, in technology, you want to be developing your skills relatively often. A good developer, in reality, is not somebody who got a diploma. Usually, a good developer is somebody who is a developer, right? Who's attracted to development. That's one of the things I look at when I look at resumes. That's a deep insight, I think. And you know, uh, again, AI will remove some biases, but the attitude you will show in your interview will do a lot. And hiring is always a business case. There are things happening in the background in the business that you ignore, and so you always want to be positive for your next interview, because if you believe in yourself, you'll succeed.
Yeah, no, I think we are almost end of the time, maybe more than that. So I really appreciate everyone who has participated with fantastic questions. Thank you very much, Thomas. It was very insightful. We learned a lot, and I'm hoping everyone else did as well. So it was really great session.
I share the same pleasure. I really thank you for this wonderful interview, Dharmendra. I learned also from you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.